right, red algae. Now, red algae is belonging to the phylum Rhodophyta. There is a red pigment in here called rhodopsin, but it is part of a group of pigments called the phycobilins. So when we say that the accessory pigment is phycobilins, that includes rhodopsin. And I didn't put it in here, but that's where Rhodophyta got its name. So that's spelled Rhodopsin, rhodopsin. And it's the main phycobilin that gives red algae its color. So it does contain chlorophyll A and B as the accessory, as your dominant pigments, but it also has the phycobilins as the accessory pigments, and those are the pigments that, of course, transfer the light waves up to the chlorophylls. Now, the red algae can live and survive in a lot deeper water than the other ones can, and the data says that they're about 3 times more, they can survive 3 times deeper than any of the other phyla. However, we know that the red algae, the wavelength is weaker for that photosynthesis. Remember, on your electromagnetic spectrum, when we go Roy G. Biv, we've got red on one end and we've got the blue indigo violets on the other end, with violet being your strongest. So if it's stronger, it's going to have the shortest wavelength. Well, with red, it has the longer wavelength, and actually it can go into deeper waters. So they're capable of photosynthesizing at greater depths than any of the others. Okay, there are a few species that can live in fresh water. Most of them are marine seaweeds, but some can live in fresh water. I've never seen one on land, but the literature says there are some. Not all red algae look red. Sometimes when you're going in the water, as you go deeper, you start to lose your red vision because it is the weaker. You start to lose red. And I can tell you, as someone who's picked up a piece of fire coral on a reef, I was at 100 feet scuba diving, and fire coral, which is bright red at shorter depths, has almost no color where I was down at 100 feet. And so, like an idiot, a piece of that red coral had broken off and was sort of floating. I never would have picked it off, but I didn't have a glove on and I held it in my hand, and that was a major mistake because fire coral gets its fire name because it releases a toxin. It's a defense. It says, "Get away from me," sort of like poison ivy does. And I didn't have to go to the hospital, but I almost had to go to the hospital from the swelling. So as you get deeper down, you lose your red vision. Okay, some of them have a more of a pigment too that has them look more like a coral, which is sort of, in between the red and the orange. It's coral. And corallina algae is the most common that has that type of pigmentation. In our tank, when it used to be a saltwater tank, we had a lot of coralline algae that grew on the sides of the tank, and it was really pretty. It had a beautiful coral, and it lives closer to the surface of the water and has a little bit different shape, but it's very, very pretty. Corallina is one of the more common of your red algae. All right, there are certain species that have cell walls that contain what is called kerogen. Kerogen is thick and it's really sticky. It's a polysaccharide and it's a texture thing. Agar plates. The plates, we'll talk about those in just a minute. They make those with kerogen. Cosmetics. Now this is a lot thicker, so anything that is going to be more emollient. A lot of times, wrinkle creams, gelatin capsules. Carrageenan is in some kind of cheese. If you can look to the left, it's in some types of toothpaste, also ice cream. It's a binder. It binds, and gelatins have got it. When you eat Jello, Jello's loaded with carrageenan. So there's a lot of commercial food products that it's used for due to its texture. Agar. Okay, so I mentioned it, but agar is the polysaccharide that comes from the cell walls that is used in making the plates. And if you take the micro class here, you'll actually make agar plates. And it's the gel in the bottom of the petri dish that allows the surface for the microbes, whether it be bacteria, mostly bacteria, to grow. You do have to put a food source in there, but sometimes the agar itself has got enough polysaccharide in it. Sometimes, depending on the type of bacteria, it may have to have a blood source to it, but it's the most common agar plate is the most common of your bacterial plates for growing all kinds of microbes. All right, the phylum is Rhodophyta. The common name is red algae. It's multicellular. The pigments are chlorophyll A. Now, it has more chlorophyll A than B, so I didn't put B in here because if I ask for the dominant pigment on this one, you can just say chlorophyll A. And the phycobilins. Now, the main phycobilin, again, is going to be rhodopsin. Phycobilins is a group, and the group has individual pigments within it. They are phototrophs. They're capable of photosynthesizing at greater depths. And I'm not going to ask you this particular scientific name. It is one of the ones that grows at deeper depths. Corallina would be sufficient. That's probably the most common and the one that I will probably, if you see it on the test, that's probably the one you'll see.